What do you say, everybody? It is time for Monday Night Quarterback right here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. We appreciate you guys being here with us as we do this show every Monday night at 6 o'clock. He's Tony Tsoukalas. He's the beat writer for Bama Insider, the Alabama rival site. I'm Mick Gillispie, your humble host. And every Monday night, we talk about Alabama. We'll recap a little bit of the Arkansas game. We'll talk about Auburn, Alabama, number 2 in the college football playoff rankings. That's going to be the same, right? Maybe not. C.J. Stroud, a big performance for Ohio State. Bryce Young, is he still the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman? I don't know. We're going to get into all that tonight. But again, as you hang out with us, like and subscribe. And let me tell you guys something. This is Monday Night Quarterback, and it is brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. 200 feet, a mere 200 feet from Bryant-Denny Stadium, right there in the heart of Tuscaloosa and campus. And for those of you guys that want to visit Tuscaloosa, I'll tell you what, it is a great place to do it. You're right by the quad. You're right by the stadium. You can walk to campus. You can walk to the strip. All of those things are so convenient. And then on game days at Westgate, it does not get any better because the Skygate Club is amazing. The amenities are awesome. The parking is just perfect. There's the Skygate Club right there. That's where we do our post-game shows, which we won't be doing anymore this year because no more home games. But we had a great time up there. Jillian and the crew were just fantastic. I'm telling you, the hospitality is amazing. And there are some units that are still available. 1 to 5 bedroom units, 900 to 3,000 square feet, the overspacious balconies, the amazing kitchens. WestgateAL.com for more information, whether you want to buy to live in it or you just want to rent it for additional income. I'll tell you what, they are really, really awesome. It was just a great time there this year. All right, with all of that said, let me bring him on here. Tony Tsoukalas, the beat writer for Bama Insider. What's up, dude?
Hey, man. Happy Iron Bowl week.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. All of those things together, right? Wrapped up in one.
Right. It's an exciting week. It's probably one of the best football weeks of the year. You know, you've got the Thanksgiving Day games, which they always disappoint, but like you've got that, you've got a lot of rivalries going on. You still got NFL going on. It's probably, in my opinion, your best football week of the season.
Yep, and a lot of coaching vacancies now starting to pop up. I mean, who would have thought that this year would see so many openings? But a lot of stuff going on in the world of college football. But we're focused on Alabama, and we're focused on the Iron Bowl. I do want to talk about Saturday's game, but we got to start with Bo Nix. I tell you what, if anyone watched my Friday night show, the Bama Insider Tailgate show last year, Lance Taylor, who is part of the Next Round, which is a show that airs in Birmingham. You'd see Lance is awesome. Lance, Jim Dunaway, Ryan Brown, really good dudes. They were at Innisfree a couple of times this year before we went on and did our show, so I got to hang out with those guys some. They have Bo Nix now. You know, they're he's got a name, image, and likeness deal to come on their show. And he was on there today. And Bo Nix basically said that I'll let you get into this, Tony. What did Bo Nix say today, and what did you think about it?
Yeah, so they asked him if he had seen the Alabama game and saw, Bryce Young throw for 559 yards. And he said that he did, but then he was also quick to mention that Arkansas also put up a lot of yards on Alabama. And then he went into some controversial calls that, he thought, needed a second look. And they kind of went back to him about that. And he basically just said anybody who's non-biased would see that there's, something different, is what he said, about the way Alabama games are called by SEC officials. So for someone who's not going to play in the Iron Bowl, he certainly stoked that fire a little bit. And it seems like a yearly occurrence with Bo, and I actually love him for it because it certainly makes this game more interesting. I mean, like last year, if you remember right, he I don't know if he meant it in a bad way, but it was certainly taken by Alabama in a bad way when he talked about Mac Jones being good at managing the game. And then, even during SEC media days, he talked about, he backed up his defensive lineman who said that they wanted to what did he say? Take the tusk off the elephant, I think it was. He said that he backed that up and they're not scared of Alabama, which is fine. That's what you expect your quarterback to say. Really, he hasn't said anything super egregious against Alabama when you actually nitpick every single thing he said. But the fact that he so often pops up and just gets under Alabama fans' skin and, provides bulletin board material, I love it because it makes for interesting things for us to talk about and write about. I'm not sure if I was one of his Auburn teammates, if I would love it, just because, they're going to have to back up his words on Saturday.
I like it too. Look, I listened to the Jocks, the guys that used to be at the Jocks Roundtable, the next round, right? And I liked their show. And I heard him on there for a second today, but, I got some calls and then kind of faded away from it. So I didn't even realize that he had made that comment. And then I saw your post and I'm like, you know what? This is fun. This is what a rivalry is all about. The funny part about it is that Auburn's lost 3 games in a row. They lost at South Carolina. Alabama has struggled putting opponents away, but you know what? They're still a great team. They come in, needing to win this football game. They'll be focused, and he won't be there to play quarterback, which I thought, like you kind of alluded to there, is interesting.
And I love it. Look, I'm not trying to throw shade at Bryce. At Bo Nix. I think he's probably a good kid, and every time we've talked to him, he's just been like a really, great quote, kind of good. He send out good kid vibes, But it is kind of funny that he, of all people, will be talking about, somebody getting a benefit of a call. I mean, did you remember even the game against Arkansas last year where he spiked the ball backwards? I mean, it's the exact same team. If I was an Arkansas fan, I'd be like, wait a minute, who are you to say, if anything, Arkansas should be the team that should be complaining. And they seem to be the team that's on the other side of some of these calls. But that being said, I don't really think that any of the calls that happened in the Arkansas game were really bad. I mean, there was a couple of them back to back. There was that close play where the receiver almost got in the end zone. They rolled him down inside the 1. And then the next play, they got in the end zone, but they didn't originally rule it a touchdown. But that's kind of a no harm, no foul situation, right? Because Arkansas still just scored a touchdown. I mean, in the stat books, I feel bad for the wide receiver. But other than that, can't really argue. I tried to look at other things that maybe Arkansas fans or Auburn fans or Bo Nix would have a problem with.
Right.
The catch by Jamison Williams, the third one for the final touchdown for Alabama. I mean, that's a close play. It looked like he caught it in the back of the end zone, but that's a close play.
Oh, that was a touchdown. Come on.
Yeah. I'm trying to nitpick to see some of these, close calls. You know what I'm saying? These controversial calls. I think it's a touchdown, but I could also see, if you're looking for it not to be a touchdown, that you would convince yourself that it's not a touchdown. It wasn't a slam dunk obvious touchdown. You know
no, to me it was. Look, what wasn't a catch was that play at the end of the game against Georgia State that the Auburn fans were like, what are you talking about? That's a catch. And they were just like, okay, we'll take it. They would have lost that football game. I don't think Auburn's a bad team, but without Bo Nix, they're not nearly as good. He did beat Alabama in his freshman year, but he's not going to be there. Right. He beat Mac Jones, but, a different Mac Jones than we had last year. A not very confident Mac Jones compared to the guy last year that was locked in. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I love the stoking of the fire when it comes to this game. And it kind of leads me into, and we're still going to backpedal and talk about Arkansas, so don't forget that. But but while we're on this right now, it makes me backpedal into this guy right here. I start thinking about my first ever Iron Bowl, and I think we talked about this last year. That was the 96 Iron Bowl. I have a picture of it in my ticket stub right above me here in my studio. When Alabama beat Auburn 24-23. Dennis Riddle scored a touchdown with 36 seconds left to tie the game, and then the extra point won it. I saw a guy at Westgate Luxury Condominium wearing a T-shirt from that game, which I was on the air, so I couldn't walk over and say, dude, that's from 96. Like, tell me you've had that shirt. This has got to be your lucky Bama shirt or something. Tony, tell me about your most memorable Iron Bowls.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, it was weird because I went home. So I went to Alabama in 2008 was my first year. I went home for Thanksgiving because I'm from Houston. So I missed my first Iron Bowl. The next one was in Auburn. I missed that one too.
Shameful.
The first one that I attended in person was the Cam Newton game. When they came back. That was a crazy game. And then every other one I've been covering because the last one I covered as a member of the Crimson White, that was Trent Richardson's big game in Auburn. Then I came back onto the beat in 2016. That was a blowout. 17 was a loss in Auburn. 18 was a blowout. 19 was a loss in Auburn. And 20 was a blowout. So the best games I've been at have all been Auburn wins, like in terms of like, quote unquote, like best, most entertaining games. Because either it's been an Alabama blowout or, an Auburn win. But some of those blowouts were fun from a historical standpoint. I mean, Mac had a really big game and Tua had a really big game. And the two of the ones I saw in Bryant Denny, and even those Auburn games, they're really fun. The moment I have and the respect I have for Auburn fans is this: they're all rushing the field, and this is back, when you could, kind of, this is pre-COVID, right? So I'm running down to try to get to Nick Saban for the post game, and I'm trying to get down on the stands to get onto the field to go, because you have to get onto the field to go to the media room, right? Mm-hmm. And, those stands are metal, just like, they are in Bryant Denny. And when Auburn's winning, they're also kind of full of bourbon. So I slipped on a bourbon thing, and I was about to bust my head open with my laptop, and an Auburn fan caught me and helped me out, and probably saved me for some stitches on my head. So that was probably the Iron Bowl I remember the most. And so that would have been the one in 2017 that they lost with Jalen Hurts. And then they went on, of course, to win with Tua in the championship game. But that's probably the one I remember the most is that one.
Do you remember, did I talk to you last year when we were on the show about the time that the last Iron Bowl, the real last Iron Bowl at Legion Field? And it really wasn't even, I guess really you couldn't even consider it a real Iron Bowl because Auburn didn't get half of the tickets. It was an Alabama home game at the time.
Yeah, the ones in Birmingham, from what I've heard, tended to sway more crimson than orange and blue. Well,
the one in 96 was half and half. This one was, I want to say it was 98, maybe.
Oh, geez.
I don't know. I want to say that, but it was the last one that they had there. And a brawl broke out in the student section. And right at the end of the game, pretty much Alabama fans, people were just getting thrown everywhere. And next thing I know, I got maced and handcuffed. So, Jesus. And so my date at the game was like, hey, he was just trying to break this up. Like, it just happened, she's there. I'm just trying to like clear house, like basically just keep people safe. So about 3 hours after the game, I finally left. Like, let me just tell you, for those of you that have never been maced, and that's really the only time for me, your nose runs, you can't see, and it takes a good 2 hours for you to even be able to kind of like look anymore, So they took the cuffs off, and the guy apologized, and later, like I left. So I was like the last guy to leave the last Iron Bowl.
Jeez. Wow.
Think about that for a memory.
That's a pretty bad memory. That's right up there. If that's like my memory if the guy didn't catch me and I, had to go to the hospital.
Well, that's what it reminded me. It's like, I just think if she wouldn't have been there, maybe I'd end up in jail or something. I mean, who would have known, But yeah, I've had some good times at the Iron Bowl. I've seen Alabama win a bunch of times down in Auburn. I was there the first time they ever won when Sean Alexander and Alabama, Andrew Zhao beat them. And then I was there the last time Alabama won when Derrick Henry ran all over him in the second half of that football game, just kind of beat him up as things went on. So these games are all very memorable. So that'll be a lot of fun coming up. We're going to get into that a little bit more maybe later on in the show. But let's just backpedal for a second, and then we'll talk about the Heisman race and all that. But I want to get your thoughts on Saturday's game because we haven't talked to you since Alabama outlasted Arkansas, other than us talking about Bo Nix thinking that Alabama got some help from the officials.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great game for Bryce Young, and probably kept him in the Heisman race after C.J. Stroud, but not a great game for Alabama, especially not a great game for Alabama's secondary, which just got torched. Josh Jobe had a particularly bad game. They could not stop Treylon Burks at all. He was just bullying Alabama secondary. Fortunately, that Alabama was scored more points than Arkansas, and then a lot of that has to do with Bryce Young, Jamison Williams, and John Mechie, and then they really saved the day for Alabama. Alabama wasn't all bad on defense. I thought, obviously Will Anderson had another great game. Henry TuaTola was actually the Walter Camp Defensive Player of the Week. That's a guy that Alabama fans have just decided to give up on, or a few of them have, Henry TuaTola, and he has had some bad games but also a lot of good games this season. And I think he's kind of underrated when you talk about Alabama's defenders. I think he's pretty solid linebacker. And yes, he's going to make some mistakes here and there, but on our message board, and sometimes you see it on Twitter, he probably gets too much heat for, the product he puts out there. I actually really, I like Henry TuaTola. I think he's a solid linebacker.
Do you think he'll go to the NFL? Or do you think he'll be back?
I don't think he should. I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's put in the consistent season that's going to get him, to be a, first or second round pick. I don't see that. Now, maybe I'm not a draft analyst either, maybe someone does. And if someone thinks he can do that, then yeah, it becomes a business decision. But I do think that I think both of Alabama's linebackers, to be honest with you, need to come back. I don't think either of them are ready for the NFL. They haven't shown enough this season to do that. I think Henry probably has a better case right now than Christian Harris, but if I was both of them, I think I'd probably come back and try to develop. There is a risk to that, though. I mean, look, we saw Dylan Moses hurt himself and it went undrafted. So it becomes a business decision what both of those guys think is best for their family. And, I totally get it both ways, but just from what I've seen of them, I wouldn't think it's bad, especially with the NIL deals. If you're able to pick up some money in between, I think the chances of improving your draft stock could really be beneficial there.
Yeah. But I don't know that he'll even have the option of going. I mean, he's had a decent season, but he hasn't had I don't know that where would you see him being in the NFL? I mean, I
don't know. I mean, I think he's got the talent and, just the build and stuff. I mean, to be, probably at least a fourth, fifth, sixth kind of guy. I mean, you know what I'm saying? At a certain point, if you're starting for Alabama and, you're leading Alabama in tackles and he's probably got good measurables. I don't know what he runs in the 40 or anything like that. NFL teams are going to take a chance at a certain point. But I mean, why would you leave to be a fourth, fifth, sixth guy when you could be a second, third, possibly, who knows, first round guy in a year's development? The money between those two things is night and day,
Right,
so,
right. Yeah, see,
that's what I'm saying. If you could make some NIL money in between and then, kind of wait, be patient, develop, I think that's where you could really see your future open up. And I think that's both of those guys. I don't know the situation, that's their situation to make with their families, but that is my way of looking at it, I guess.
Yeah. And look, I don't think that he would get drafted, honestly, but he could. He could. Right? I think if he did, it would be really late. But I don't know. I don't think it's a guarantee that he'd get drafted. I think he'd get taken. I think
someone would take a chance on him in the fifth round or something like that. Yeah,
maybe. But I mean, look, you don't even make any money past that.
That's what I'm saying. And some of that stuff's not guaranteed, and yeah. So I mean, it's a risk. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe But that's the thing is we're not draft evaluators. If a team comes up to him and says, I'm not going to let you slip past the third round.
Right. Maybe you want that. You just say go for it.
Yeah. Maybe you do it. I don't know. So.
Guys, as you hang out with Tony and I, please do us a favor, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the Bama Insider YouTube channel. This is Monday Night Quarterback, brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums, and we're talking Alabama football. All right, Tony, here it is. I'm pulling it up on the screen for you. This is the current college football playoff ratings. Now, current as in it'll change tomorrow because we know that Oregon lost. We know that Ohio State had a crushing win over Michigan State. Cincinnati smoked SMU. Alabama struggled to put Arkansas away, and Georgia looked unbeatable again. I can even scroll up for you and just show that Michigan is now 10-1. They destroyed Maryland, which, by the way, on the Friday show, that was my lock of the week. Notre Dame and Oklahoma State are hanging in there. All right, let's talk about this week's college football playoff rankings. What do you think it's going to look like?
I would not be surprised, especially because they like to do things. And we saw it in the Associated Press Top 25. I would not be surprised if Ohio State jumps Alabama here for the number 2 spot. The thing is, I don't know if that really even matters. And really, the real question is, what does the committee think of Notre Dame and Oklahoma State? And the reason why I say that is Alabama is in a chance, and I did not think this was going to be a possibility. But if you look at this, if you scroll up a little bit more, Alabama's in a possibility. If they lose a close game to Georgia, they could still make it in. Because you got to look, Michigan's probably going to lose to Ohio State, or one of those two teams are going to lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would open up the door. So that then Cincinnati would be 3. Even if Alabama loses, you've got, are they going to be bumped for Oklahoma State, or are they going to be bumped for Notre Dame? I don't know. Maybe they take a one loss of one of those two teams over, over a 2-loss Alabama that doesn't have a conference championship. I think that would be the argument right there. But I don't know if they would. You know what I'm saying? I think before I was thinking it would be impossible for Alabama to have 2 losses and not a national championship game. But if they play a close game against Georgia, I think the argument from Alabama's standpoint will be, well, how are you going to punish us for playing an extra game against the number 1 team in the nation? I don't know how the committee's going to view that. I don't, the thing that makes me kind of think that Alabama might have a chance is they already put an undefeated Oklahoma below a 1-loss Alabama.
Right.
So they obviously view Alabama as better than the Big 12. I think that there's a solid chance that, a 2-loss Alabama, if it's close against Georgia, might still make the playoff, which is just wild.
Well, I agree with you, and here's why. Okay, Oregon's out. They got destroyed 38-7. They're done, right? Ohio State and Michigan play each other. One of those teams is going to be out, right? They're going to have their second loss. I think Cincinnati's still going to lose, probably to Houston. I don't think they're going undefeated. I know they had a great game last week, but they were just kind of pedaling along.
If Cincinnati, I'll stop you right there, Mick. I firmly believe if Cincinnati loses and Alabama beats Auburn, I think Alabama's in.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. You get down here to number 8.
You have to beat Georgia at all at that point.
Right, yeah. Notre Dame could slip in. I don't think they're going to lose another game. They don't play a conference championship. They beat Georgia Tech 55-0. Brian Kelly's got those guys getting better and better each week. And Oklahoma State, you got to keep an eye on them. Look, I know they're at number 9 here, but they're 10-1 and they play Oklahoma this week. And I know, look, Oklahoma slide them all the way down to number 13. But if they win that football game, they're going to get a lot of love in that spot. So that's what I'm saying. I feel like they're a team to keep an eye on, but you got rid of number 3. There's 1 gone. I think Cincinnati's going to lose. That's 2. We know that Ohio State or Michigan or both could lose by then because, look, if Michigan upsets Ohio State, they're not a lock to win their championship game. And then Michigan State's out. I mean, they haven't recalculated after their butt whooping. And then, Notre Dame and Oklahoma State. I still think Alabama could get in with 2 losses if they played, an epic battle with Georgia over Notre Dame.
Hey, Mick, where have you heard this before? A non-SEC Alabama prevents a Big 12 champion Oklahoma State from playing for a national title.
Yeah, I know. I remember when that happened, right?
So, man, that would really upset, I think, Oklahoma State if that happened 2 times, right?
But they can't win this game. That's the problem with them. They just haven't been able to win this game. And it's look, it all comes down to Bedlam. But I just have this feeling that they're going to lose, and it'll be Oklahoma that pops back up into that spot anyway. But Oklahoma doesn't have that signature win this year.
No.
It's interesting. But look, a 2-loss Alabama, they got to beat Auburn first.
Sure.
And then they've got to play.
Auburn. Oh, the thing is, I mean, if they lose to Auburn and beat Georgia, they're definitely in, though. So that's another way to look at it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So even with 2 losses, the funny part about this is that Alabama is still a team that is capable of getting in. I just don't know. I've been watching college football a long time. I just don't. Georgia has just had the stars have aligned for them this year. And it's going to take an epic performance to beat them. I don't think Ohio State has the line to beat them. I think Alabama would have to play their best game to beat them. So, we'll find. I guess we'll find out
what he did against Arkansas. That's what they're gonna need. For Alabama, and he's totally capable of doing that. And Bryce Young has been a different quarterback since the Texas A&M game. He's really taken he was already good. He was already a Heisman contender. I think he's taken his game up another level since that defeat. And now we're starting to, I'll have a story tomorrow morning about he's starting to deliver the deep ball. Everyone was saying, oh, well, Bryce can't throw the deep ball. Bryce can't throw the deep ball. Well, he was 4 of 6, I think, for 149 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'm not sure if the yards are correct, but that's testing my memory. But it'll be in the story. And that was against Arkansas. He's been especially good the last 4 games on balls that have traveled 20 or more yards through the air. So he's starting to add that element to his game. It's like throughout the season, we've seen him add more and more elements, right? So at first it was, oh, Bryce can't run, or he's not going to run. And then we saw a few games when he was hurting teams with his legs. And then, then it was, he can't deliver the deep ball. And then now we're starting to see that. So I think he's really becoming more of a complete quarterback. And we really saw that, kind of come to fruition against Arkansas, and boy, did Alabama need it.
Before we get into his Heisman odds, I want to say that this is the best comment of the night right here, because I totally believe in this. I don't even know what this name is. Craroots 92, Crayutis. Anyway, look, the playoffs start in August. That's what makes college football, to me, the best sport to follow, is that really the playoffs do start at the first game of the season, because there just aren't a lot of spots, and you got to keep winning each week to be able to put yourself in position. Guys, all of you, thank you for the comments as you hang out with us. Like and subscribe. And, keep going at it on the message board. Love reading that as we hang out. All right, Tony, let's talk about Bryce Young and his Heisman odds, because despite the fact that he had an epic, historic performance against Arkansas, where he threw for more yards than any other quarterback in Alabama football history in a single game, and 5 touchdowns and no interceptions, and he made all the plays, and he keeps getting better. Somehow, C.J. Stroud has passed him in Vegas as the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman. So I think it's plus 150 for Stroud, and then maybe plus 200 for Stroud and minus 150.
Stroud's actually an odds-on favorite. I got it right here. Hold on.
Stroud is the odds-on favorite. I just don't have I'll tell you what it is right here. Let me pull.
He's at a minus. What it is, like Stroud's at negative 200 odds.
That's it.
And Young is at plus 150.
Thank you.
Everyone else is at plus in the thousands.
I had it backwards, but yeah, exactly.
So, but look at what Stroud did, right? He threw for the 6 touchdowns and a half. Alabama needed Young, and Young did it the whole game. Stroud was out by halftime because the game was over. I mean, right. If Ohio State wanted to put Stroud in, he might have had 10 touchdowns. I mean, like that Michigan State defense, it's the worst passing defense in the nation. That's not an exaggeration. It is 130 out of 130 Division I teams in pass defense. It's terrible. It's not a good pass defense. Nobody was complaining when Bryce Young beat New Mexico State and had basically a perfect game against them, and he did that against the second worst pass defense. So I mean, it is what it is. I'm not trying to take anything away from CJ Stroud, because he had a great game. And if you throw 6 touchdowns and a half, I don't care who you're playing against. That is just really tough to do. And he was crazy. Those 2 kids are are just going to push each other for the Heisman. And really right now, either one of them is deserving of it. It's kind of crazy, right, Mick? You've got three, Matt Corral's the distant third for this award, but three Southern California quarterbacks all competing for the Heisman. It just shows you how much talent comes from that area.
And it also shows you how bad football out west is right now, where all of their stud quarterbacks and really players of all positions are leaving and coming south and east to play football.
Tough time to be a USC Trojan fan right now when you see those three quarterbacks doing what they're doing and knowing that you ended up with none of them. That's really tough.
I know. And the guy you fired is one of the hottest coaching candidates that's out there, and Lane Kiffin. Today, Dan Mullen fired from Florida. A lot of rumors that Lane Kiffin is interested in Miami if that opens. I wonder if that changes now that Florida is available. I guess the last thing is just your thoughts on this coaching carousel that's about to heat up again, talking about recruiting and everything else that goes into this.
What's a better job in your opinion, Mick, LSU or Florida? That's
LSU.
I would tend to think LSU, but then LSU, is it still a better job as long as Nick Saban's there? Because you're constantly competing with him, and you're constantly in the same division as him. I think when you talk about, you still have good recruiting in Louisiana, and you don't have to deal with other schools in your state like Florida does, because Florida's having to deal with Florida State and Miami, and then they're also getting people picked out of their state as well. But so you would give the advantage maybe to LSU in terms of that. But Alabama, having to play them every year, it's so hard to succeed in the West. I mean, every time you think that Texas A&M is about to do it, and they fall apart,
right.
And they've got the state of Texas, at their disposal, so you'd think that if anyone's going to do it, Texas A&M would do it. So I'm not sure which is a better job. I don't know if I'd want to coach in the SEC West as long as Nick Saban's there. Maybe just like have a verbal agreement with one of those teams that the year he retires, I'll join your team, but it's going to be interesting to see where these fall. I can't imagine, Lane Kiffin staying just because, I don't know, he's going to get some crazy good offers, but I wouldn't think it's the worst idea if he did stay,
Right.
I think he's got a safe spot in Mississippi. And if he just kind of stays there, he's recruiting well. Stay there until Nick Saban retires, if you think that's going to be in the next few years, and I think then you could maybe make a push. Why not Ole Miss at that point? And, so I don't know.
Look, this is an easy answer. The better job is LSU because you're not competing with anyone else in your state as far as trying to take your talent away. I mean, Alabama comes in and plucks guys and, some of the Texas schools and all that. But I mean, for the most part, you can secure your borders. You also have better facilities. I mean, the fact that Florida doesn't have an indoor facility, it's just crazy. Some of the stuff they're building it and they got all the stuff that's coming, but it's just not there yet. And the expectations at Florida are pretty crazy. I mean, that's why they keep firing all these coaches. I think that the fact that LSU stuck by Ed Orgeron, who to me is one of the biggest clowns I've ever seen as a head coach, but they still stuck by him. He won a national championship, and then he also says just crazy stuff. But you know what? They stuck by him. I mean, like, he's still coaching even though he's fired. So there's some loyalty there when it comes to that as well. I just don't. I don't know. Florida's expectations to me are a little bit out of whack. And we'll find out who they get. This is the wrong season too to go out trying to find a head coach because there's so many other teams and schools you're going to have to compete with. So you're going to pay a lot more money now to get the guy that you want, if you can even get him.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be fun to follow, and it's a lot easier for me to follow it as one of the schools that's, I guess, not replacing coaches. Although I'm sure. There'll be some interest for Bill O'Brien and, Pete Golding that we'll have to follow as well. So I'm sure I'll get caught up into it. But for the meantime, it's kind of fun watching, these other schools trying to see what they're going to do and put together this puzzle.
Yeah, I think Bill O'Brien will end up with a head coaching job, and I don't know that Alabama fans, at least from this message board, will be too sad to see him go, right?
It'll certainly help him if Bryce Young is able to win the Heisman. That'll be a nice little feather in his cap, right?
Yep. I think that for Bryce Young to win the Heisman, he's got to have a Heisman moment. He's got to make some kind of a crazy play and show some energy and emotion. And
Mick was 5 touchdowns and 559 yards against a ranked opponent, not a Heisman moment.
I agree, but I'm talking about that, the catch, where Smitty jumped over the guy and made the one-handed snag. That was a blowout game. It didn't even matter, but it just looked good. I
think it will come against Georgia if he's able to do this kind of performance against Georgia, which everyone knows is the best defense, right? If he's able to do that, I think that will be that Heisman moment. Even if there's not a moment per se, I think the fact that he did that against Georgia, I think that will be his Heisman moment.
Awesome. All right, Tony, anything else that you're working on you want to push before we close up shop?
Yeah, just like what I was saying. We talked about that Bryce Young deep ball. Keep an eye out. That'll be something for tomorrow morning on the site.
All right. He's Tony Tsoukalas. I'm Mick Gillispie. Make sure you catch us tomorrow when we are back here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. We've got Andrew Bone and his recruiting show with Trey Yanity. And then we will break down the college football playoff rankings tomorrow at 6 o'clock as ESPN announces them. We'll be here to talk about it, and we hope that you guys will join us then. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hit like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up, because we appreciate you more than you know. So long, everybody. Talk